Oh, hello there, guys. Welcome back. We're gonna start. We're gonna continue with this. So the next thing you should do is we just probably need to set up the main light. So I'm gonna go here into the key light and then make sure it's movable so everything is real time. Now, according to Epic Games and the Unreal Engine website, they recommend that the light of the intensity of the directional light should be set to the number pi in math, which is 3.14. Now, don't ask me why they recommend to do that. It's something that probably is internally coded, and that's how they work. So if you put that to that number, you pretty much are on that sort of ballpark there. Now, for this, the way this directional light works, you have two options. You have the option to have a capture the scene, or to actually specify a cube map. The cube map is an HDRI image, okay? So I think I showed in the past to you guys, you can find those images. The image that I found here, which is one that I found with somebody who did a tutorial on this, is one that is sort of neutrally lit, and it has very interesting setup because it sort of mimics what we have in here. Now, just to remember, guys, just to reiterate this, the reason I'm doing this, and you might find that that is not useful for you in terms of like what would I do to actually just jump into my scene. I just wanted to show you this so you can have something as a starting point that you can test your actual assets and you can understand what is behind the scenes, so you can, when you go into your project, then you can actually have a better understanding of how to start the process. Okay, so here we have the capture scene and we have the cube map. Now I got already a cube map here, which is from the past, which I'm gonna go to here. I think it's week 8. I'm gonna take it from there and I put it in this folder called HDRI. So I'm gonna copy that and I'm just gonna move it into that project that I'm working on, which is this one. So I'm gonna put it inside textures. So I'm gonna paste that there. Now, because I made that connection already, that I told you earlier, now you see it asking me, there is a change in the content. Do you want to import it? You say yes, import it automatically. And if you put in if you create some sort of subfolder structure within that, it will import it as well. So it's good to keep your project organized. So I'm just gonna hide this content for now. So I'm just gonna have only my local content. So you can see here in textures, I got the folder and I got HDRI. So we open this, it sort of mimics this. Now, trying to keep a HDRI for this particular, that is quite sort of neutrally lit, so you see it's clouded. There's no like a sharp highlight with the sun or something like that. So this is just a suggestion. When you're gonna do your project, you can choose your own HDRI and you can actually capture once you have the whole thing already textured, you can actually capture your own scene. Now this stuff here is already set up for you, and you can see the thing you should do is just it goes automatically into the HDRI RGB. I think you should get rid of this. For some reason it doesn't do it. Well, I think it does. It takes a little bit of time. You should get rid of the sRGB because this is supposed to be an HDR image, which is linear. That is the theory behind it. So I'm just gonna close that. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the light here, and I'm just gonna put a cube map. Just remember, if you put a capture scene, you drag and drop it, you see it goes red. It doesn't allow you to do it. So you have to go into specify cube map and you put this in here, okay? And as soon as you do that, you can see that it's lighting up evenly across all your scene, including the shadows, okay? You can see now that before it was before you see it's very dark, and now with this, it just lights things up a little bit. Now you find that it's quite bright, and you could just decrease the intensity by 0.5 if you want, and that's it. I think this is pretty okay for now. Okay, so the next thing you should do, and I think that's something you have to do every time you start your project, you need to have a post-processing volume, but you need to neutralize the post-processing volume. Like I remember I told you the original level that I opened there, that it has a post-processing volume, but it's already been tweaked with some stuff that we don't want. Okay, now the way the post-processing volume is that and I think I always bring this analogy because I think it makes sense to me in my head, is that when you are shooting things in RAW, for example, in a camera, and I think probably, let me have a look, internet. So I think if you, I think it's, I think this is quite interesting because I'm not going to show you that, but I'm going to show you just the comparison. So I'm opening something in YouTube so you can have a look, because I think probably, I don't know if this is a good example actually, but you can see that, for example, if I drag and, this is pretty much Premiere, so if I drag and drop this, you can see that, you see how everything looks flat and washed out? That's because it's being shot in S-Log or RAW. And this is how you should start with your project. You should look very flat like this. And then with the post-processing volume at the end, you don't keep your, you see the darks are quite washed out, and you know. So if you have more information in there, you will be able to create some really nice contrasted images at the end. So if you can see, once the guy puts some stuff to it and then do the color correction, you can make it look however you want. You can see, you can pop the skin, which is a bit too much I think, but you can see he brought the colors back here, the color there, not contrasted, put the trousers back the way it was. Now if you are starting with something like this, you might be tweaking your textures and you don't even know if those textures are going to look like that once you put the post-processing volume at the end. So you should start with something as flat as possible like this, and then with all the color correction, you do all this stuff and you make it look as good as you want. Okay, so this is pretty much the same workflow here. Okay, it just happens to be in real time. So now with the post-processing volume is the one that allows you to do that, and you start with this. Okay, with the film. Okay, and from the film, let's copy this line down for some reason. With the film, you do the color grading, which is what the guy just did there, which is the white balance, shadows, mid-tone. Then at the end, you put all the artifacts from the lens to make it look more photorealistic. But you need to have some sort of like starting point. Okay, and I think it happens to me in my project, and my past project that I showed you, that I had everything too contrasting. I was making changes in my texture that to compensate for that. And then when I actually find out about all this, because I did a lot of research, find out actually, okay, that's how they work, just like in film. Okay, that's fine. So once I did all the changes, then I realized my textures were off. So I had to go back and then readjust everything neutral as possible. And then at the end, when I finish my project, then I will make it look cinematic, because I will have the ability to work with this. So start from the bottom up in the post-processing volume. You start with the film stuff that is going to be set up for the whole project. This can be set up for specific scenes, and this is the old sort of the juice at the end to make it look nice, to make things pop. So first of all, we need to, obviously the post-processing volume works with the volume or whatever you have inside this volume, but you can make it work for the whole scene. In order to do that, you have to go all the way down here, and then you just tick this box that says infinite extent, unbound, which means that whatever change we do here is going to happen everywhere. Okay. Now the things that I normally do for this is, first is just go into exposure, and then the metering system here, put it to exposure histogram. And then I put min and max to 1 and 1. You can see that I did this, and now this is exactly how it looks. Now it means that now my light, this light is too dim, so I'm gonna put it back the way it was. So now I can just, not too much, I can pump it up to about 3, and then I'm going back to the way it should be. You see, by having those elements there, I was doing automatically some color correction in the whole thing. And you see how it's affecting the background as well. So, because it's unbound. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave that the way it was. Then I'm going to do is I'm going to go into here, I think it's editor preferences. And then I'm going to get rid of that auto exposure, like the eye adaptation thing. So if you put auto exposure, I think it's in the editor or it's in the project. I will always forget. Let's go into project and then type here. I think it's this one, auto exposure. Yeah, auto exposure. Uncheck this, okay, because that will get rid of that horrible adaptation thing automatically for the whole project. If you can disable it here somewhere, but it will only be as soon as you restart the engine, it will pretty much reset it. So with that one that I just did, it goes for the whole project, say in disk, okay. So we have this, okay, and now I'm going to do is I'm going to, so we had that already in place. I think, let's have a look. I think this is okay, this is okay. Maybe I can pump this up a bit more, probably 4, okay. And you can see here that this guy is influencing a lot of the decisions you make here. So don't touch any of this stuff, just only touch the exposure, which means you're flattening everything out. And then the next thing we need to do, okay, and that's for the project, is to sort of neutralize that contrasty thing in the background. And normally you have to play around with these 3 numbers. Now this stuff here is sort of controversial in terms of discussion, because there's a lot of discussion about what the setting should be. But now this thing here, what it does, it just pretty much tweaks the curve response of the mapping of the colors, or the bright colors and the dark colors inside the engine. So what they recommend is to put this to 0.25, okay, just to neutralize it. Put this to 0.5, okay, and then this one is the one that affects the whole thing more dramatically, that's 2.6. You can see that everything gets a little bit flat look. You see, and it sort of look washed out, and that's what we want. We want something to look a bit washed out. So when we are working on the project, so you know that things, imagine like you were shooting it with a camera in S-Log or RAW. So I think this is okay for now. Okay. So the other thing we need to do as well in the post-processing volume, I mean, this one in my project is at 0.7 because I think 0.6 was too flat, so I wanted to keep it. I can play around with this one. So this was set up for the whole project. So another thing that I want to do is go into the ambient occlusion section, and I'm just gonna increase this, and then I'm just gonna put this to 1. And then this one you play around with the settings. You can see this is just a screen space post effect. So this one here you can just play around until you're happy with something in there. So something like that, I suppose. And then that's just to have an ambient occlusion. Then it's screen space reflection. So you put the intensity and the quality to put it to 100. You can see you can just increase this a little bit. Okay. So the intensity is 100, and then the quality is 100. You can see that automatically you start getting the reflections in the environment. This is just a post-processing effect, okay? So it's not real reflection as in real-time ray tracing. This is just a fake sort of reflection, okay? So once you have this, then you can sort of have a neutral lit scene that you can work on, okay? So this is fine for now. I hope this helped, because this is something that you're going to be dealing with constantly. I think this stuff is too big, so I want to put it here to about 4,000. So when you start your project, start with something like this, okay? Just the post-processing volume, neutralize this and the light and this with your own HDRI, okay? Like I was saying earlier, if you can take this into Photoshop, open it because it's an HDRI image, open it in Photoshop, save it as a target, and then you can actually create a shader and attach it to the background sphere, and then you will have your sky in the background there if that's what you want, okay? So I think that's it for now, guys. I think this is pretty much a good starting point for you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into next section. I'm going to go into Maya, and I'm going to create that sort of link between Substance Painter and Substance Designer together with this, so you can have things going back and forward quickly, okay? So that's it for now, guys. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you. Bye-bye.